As I was praying about who to come and share, and which I asked her months ago, sharing her testimony, God just really laid her on my heart to come up here and share. And I am super excited for her to have the opportunity and for us to have the opportunity to hear how God has moved in her life. Thank you, Jenna.
Thank you. Can y'all hear me? Okay, so I just wanted to pray real quick, help calm my nerves. Dear Lord, I just want to thank you for bringing us all here tonight. Thank you for my friends and family that have come, my coworkers that have come, my church family that's come, and people that I haven't met yet. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to share what you've done in my life. And I just pray that people can just see how good you are. And if they don't know you, that I can introduce them to you. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. So it's kind of ironic, or it's kind of funny that I wound up back in Perry, Georgia, working in Perry now. When my parents got married, they bought a house in Perry on Tucker Road, and that's where I was born, and my brother was born just 22 months later. So I think we had pretty much what others would perceive as the all-American family. My mama, she was so beautiful, and she was a hairdresser. My daddy was a police officer, and yep, that's us in our little house on Tucker Road. And anyways, but I never went to school in Perry. I always went to school in Roberta because that's where my mom was from. I had grandparents in Roberta, and she worked in Roberta. So, but we did move to Roberta when I was 7, and there was never a time as a child that I remember the four of us not being together. We were just that family. And very close. So we did all the things, and my brother and I did all the things, youth groups and ball games, concerts. We did band, we were in 4-H, sleepovers, and family holidays, and birthday parties. And our home was always busy and full of kids and cousins. My granddaddy had a old country store in Roberta, and my brother and I used to work there. In the summer, I would sell watermelons and cantaloupes off the back of his pickup truck. So anyways, he passed away, and there was a family that my parents rented the house to, and they moved to Roberta, I think maybe from Valdosta, but they had 3 kids. One of their kids was your pastor, Tillman. And so Tillman and my brother Matthew, they became fast friends. They were really close. They were thick as thieves. And we have a lot of memories together growing up, playing at the store, playing at the house, playing in the fields or down the street. We used to drive go-karts and golf carts and vehicles all over the place and up and down the roads in Crawford County. But I asked Jesus to come into my heart when I was 14 years old at summer camp. And I remember the emotions and praying with a friend of mine on the beach, and I felt like I was on top of the world. I asked Jesus to be my Lord and Savior. Came home, and my brother, he followed suit because he did everything that I did too. So he asked Jesus to be his Lord and Savior too, and we both got baptized. And we became really active in our youth group. We were at church all the time, did everything, and so the next summer, we went to summer camp, and the day that we came home from summer camp would happen to be my parents' wedding anniversary. They sat us down that day and said, your dad's moving out, we're splitting up. It was a blow. It wasn't really a shock because I knew that things were not good between my parents. They didn't fuss in front of us a lot. It was just things were tense in our house. But needless to say, our whole dynamic, our whole family life changed. We went from having 2 parents at home every night. We had a lot of rules. We had a lot of structure and curfews and people that were involved in our lives to being home alone a lot. And we had no restrictions. We had no curfews. We did a lot of what we wanted to do. I was broken inside, but I tried to pretend like I wasn't. So we would go, I would always feel real torn between my parents. We would go visit my dad, and he would cry, and he would just be sad, And so then when I would be sad, I'd be mad at my mom. I'd go home mad at her. But things rocked on. I did manage. I graduated high school. I was an honor graduate, cheerleader. I did all the things. But even then, I had started partying. And it was okay for us to party as long as we did it at home, you know. So I went away to college, and I really thought life was great. You know, I've got all this freedom. I can do what I want to do. But I was all over the place, and I was partying and working on my blood alcohol content in my tan, and not my classes at all. And so I started dating a guy that I knew from back home that my parents, they did everything they could to keep me away from this guy. And I used to be like, oh, how could you be so racist? How this or that? But that wasn't the case at all. He was a known drug dealer. He had dropped out of high school, and he was just no good. And here I was, the girl that always did everything right, and I'm dating, the local drug dealer. So we started partying in college, and I thought that was normal, the drinking, the marijuana, the ecstasy, the cocaine. It was just like a social thing. I just can't imagine what my parents were thinking. Like, the Miss Perfect little girl went off and went crazy. And they weren't going to tell me what to do. I was grown. They were just trying to control me. Looking back now, I did everything in my power to hurt the people that loved me the most. So I eventually dropped out of college and moved to Macon with my boyfriend to a dope house. And I thought it was cool. We sold drugs to fund our lifestyle of Cadillacs and nightclubs. I thought we were something in the VIP section at every club we went to. And I found myself hanging out with convicted felons, murderers, and we trafficked drugs all over Georgia. I was the last person in the world that anybody ever expected to become hooked on drugs. But Principle 5 said that small compromises lead to great disaster, and that's how I try to explain it when I tell people that, I became addicted to methamphetamine. If you let a little bit of darkness in, a little bit more, and it makes it all okay in your mind. I was in denial about my addiction. I can remember arguing with my mom, and she accused me of being strung out, and I vehemently denied it. I'm sure that my dilated eyes and my weight loss and my behavior gave it away. But I went through a period of several years when I didn't even have any contact with my family. I missed holidays and birthdays. One time the door to my house got kicked in, and I didn't have any drugs in the house at the time, but they were like, "Do you know whose daughter that is?" They were like, "Yeah, that's Ricky Vining's daughter." And see, at the time, my dad was running for sheriff, and here I was with the worst people doing the worst things, and everybody knew about it. He later told me the only way he knew I was still alive was that then he would see the green light on MySpace, that I had been online, and he was able to sleep a little bit at night. So I became pregnant in 2003, and I was expecting a son. And my boyfriend had just been arrested and was charged with selling to an undercover cop. So I stopped using, and I got a job so that I could pay our bills, wait for him to come home. And I just had this idea that we were just going to have, this little family. We're going to clean up and turn our lives around. That's all I ever really wanted was a family. That's all I ever really wanted was kids. So I had started my job, and I immediately, shortly thereafter, started having some complications, some bleeding and stuff. So I went to the emergency room, and they're like, well, just bed rest for a couple of weeks, and then, if everything's fine, then you can go back to work and, continue. So the day that I went back to work, the symptoms came back and everything. So I was back at the ER, and I was so young and so dumb. I didn't know anything, and I was by myself. My family wasn't in my life at this time. They probably didn't even know that I was pregnant. So I gave birth to my baby. I was in labor, and they didn't tell me. I didn't know I was in labor. I was having contractions. So I gave birth to my baby in the bathroom at the Coliseum Hospital. And I just remember how tiny he was, and holding him in one hand and screaming out for help to come. And that's really all I remember from that night. The next night, I do remember they asked me what I wanted to do with the body. You know, did I want to arrange for a burial, or they would cremate the body and get, dispose of his remains. And I told him I didn't care what they did, and I left. I went right back to what I knew of the drugs, drowning my sorrows, trying to numb the pain. And the boyfriend came home from jail, and we just dove headfirst right back into the drug selling scene. And we eventually lost our house. We wound up in hotels. And so we were in went from hotel to hotel to hotel. And he had developed, he developed this drug psychosis. So he was imagining things and seeing things that weren't there. And it was really, really miserable. So people, it's no, I want to do drugs. I want to be strong out. It's really a miserable life. It's a miserable life, and it's awful. There was times I just didn't even, I was maybe I'll just go to sleep and not wake up. So anyways, he and I split up eventually. But I still didn't admit that I needed help. I was in denial. One time I called my dad. I had gone to jail for an unpaid traffic ticket. And I called my daddy and was hey, will you come get me? He's yeah, if you'll agree to, you got to go to rehab, you got to get cleaned up, you got to do something different. And I'm yeah, okay. So I'm oh, well, at least he's on the way to come get me out of jail. So I hung up the phone with him, and I kept calling people until I found somebody that would come, that had the money to come get me. And I remember the hurt in his eyes when she had beat him there to get me out of jail. And we walked past him out of the Bibb County Courthouse. And I'm real sorry. I love you. But see, that's what God does. God can heal that. God did heal that. God healed our relationship. And all my sins are washed white from his blood. So, backing up a little bit. So we're in and out of the hotels. Before I left that boyfriend, we're in and out of the hotels. And I was I always wanted to try to do right. And I thought I could do it on my own. I wanted to do right, and I just could never get it together. So this one day I had driven. I was going to go to the Department of Labor to look for a job. Well, leaving there, I was supposed to go to my cousin's house, to her apartment to meet some friends, and I didn't ever make it. So I was in a car accident, and my car hit a Buick or Cadillac or something head on, and my car flew through the air, landed in a church parking lot on Mercer University Drive. It's not even, the church isn't even there anymore, but it was the church on Mercer that had the really pretty windows. And landed in that church parking lot. So they reported it as a fatality. And I had a brain injury. So then I spent the next 6 weeks fighting for my life in the hospital. And my mom told me that they had me in a bed that rotated because of the swelling and the blood on my brain. There's a lot about that time I don't remember. I don't remember the wreck. I don't remember being at the Department of Labor, but I know that those had been my plans. There's about a 3-week period that I don't remember. And when they kept me in a drug-induced coma to give my body time to heal. But when I came to, and of course I was angry and mad at the world, and here's my family back there, what are you guys doing? Here, I haven't seen you in forever, and here you are. But everybody was well, surely Jenna will turn around. She'll change her life. Surely now she'll straighten up. God gave her another chance. I have a card that I made for my mom. I was in the hospital on Mother's Day that year. This is maybe 2003, 2004 or something. But I spelled the word mother's wrong. Like, that's how bad it was. I could not feed myself. I couldn't bathe myself. They said that I cussed everybody and I was just talking ugly to people that came to visit me, and that I tried to escape the hospital, and I don't remember any of that. But I do remember the day I remember remembering, if that makes sense. And so I go in the bath to use the bathroom, and I'm like, why have I still got this blood in my hair, and asked my mom, like, why are y'all she said, you wouldn't let anybody wash your hair or comb it or anything. And this is like 2 or 3 weeks later. So they sent me to a place in Augusta called Walton West brain and spinal cord injury facility. And when we got there, it was like a group home kind of place. They had other residents staying there that were brain injury victims. And when we got there was a young girl that was about my age, and she came up to me and she's like, hey, my name's whatever, and I'm from Augusta, I know you're far away from home. We had similar injuries. Let me know if you ever need anything. And I was like, oh, well, that was nice of her, And she walked away, and she came back, and she said the exact same thing that she had just told me 5 minutes before, like we had never met. And I was like, this is pretty serious. Like, I didn't realize, that my brain injury had been that serious. And now all I have at the top of my head, I've got a little scar at the top of my head. But I was able to heal, and God healed me from all of that. And yeah. But needless to say, I didn't turn my life around. That was not enough for me. I had drugs delivered to me at the hospital in Augusta. I told you we trafficked drugs all over the state of Georgia, and I knew people everywhere. So before I came back home, I was back on meth. My attitude was just as nasty as ever. I was such a manipulative person. I was a liar. You couldn't trust me. I was just the lowest of the low. And I knew it. When you get to that point, you think, oh, there's no hope. This is just who I'm always going to be. But so I eventually left that boyfriend and had some periods of clean time. I just couldn't maintain it on my own. I wound up eventually moving in with my aunt and uncle and my cousins. That's when I met the next boyfriend and that's when I met my son that was born in my heart. And he came into my life at a time where I needed him and he needed me. He healed me in so many ways, and I was able to do all the things. I was able to do the field trips, the ball games, the signed papers. I love to sign a paper from school. I love to go to a school program, field trips, everything, and that was the best years of my life. But we were living in sin, and we were still, as much as we thought we were doing the right thing, we still didn't have it together, and we still weren't on the right path. And anytime you continue to live like that, and God, he was there because he was protecting me the whole time, but I didn't know he was there, and I certainly, he was not on my mind at all, not at all. So when that fell apart, and things were bad, and I didn't have a car, I didn't have a license, I didn't have anywhere to go. No job, no money. And all these years, 15 years of being addicted to methamphetamines, I always had a backup plan. There was always a plan B. There was somebody I could always call. There was always something, and this time my parents were like, you're not coming home. I couldn't go to my mama's house. I couldn't go to my daddy's house. Nowhere to go. And so they kept saying, Tillman's family and my family have been friends for a lot of years. And so they knew that Tillman had turned his life around and he had gone to the rescue mission. And so in the back of my mind, I was like, well, I had already looked up the rescue mission on the internet, and I knew that it was for men with drug addiction problems or women who were in domestic abuse situations at the time, which I was not at the time. So, well, you just need to call Tillman. You just need to call Tillman. And I got so sick of hearing about how good Tillman was doing. I was sick of it. And I thought, well, I'll just call Tillman, check that off the list so that I can say, well, I called him, what now? So maybe finally then they would let me come home. And so I called Tillman, and I will never forget, like he told me, he was like, Jenna, are you ready for something different? Are you tired of living like this? Yes. And he said, well, I got a place for you to go. It's the Potter's House for women. And he was like, first you'll have to go for an interview. And I was like, well, Tillman, I don't have a car. I don't have any way to get to an interview. The Potter's House was in Milner, Georgia. He was like, don't worry about that. My wife, Jessica's going to come pick you up. And that's the first day that I met Jessica, was the day that she came and picked up my little junky butt from somewhere I had no business being to take me to an interview so that I could get help. Thank you so much. And you know how much I love y'all. But so he said, don't worry about that. My wife will come pick you up, and it's $200 a month. And I was like, Tillman, I don't have any money. He's like, don't worry, God's going to provide. So I went, and that is where I surrendered to Jesus at the Potter's House. And I will never forget the day that I went. My daddy and my brother took me, and I don't even think he cut the truck off when we pulled up. Like, he was so scared. They were so scared that I wasn't going to stay. I don't have a whole lot of pictures from that time. There was a car wreck that I was in. Not a car wreck, I'm sorry. I accidentally set myself on fire one time and wound up at the Augusta Burn Center. But I didn't take a whole lot of pictures of the time when I was using, because I was ashamed of the way that I looked. But that's, I had cadaver skin on my neck and my ear and my chest, burnt half my hair off, but that was me being strung out. I asked my dad last week, like, hey, do you have any pictures of me before 2016 of me being strung out and skinny? And he was like, no, I don't have any pictures. He's like, you didn't take many pictures then. Yeah, he didn't need one of a skinny, strung out daughter. But so I'm at the Potter's House, and I'm surrendering to God, and I got clean, and I realized that, hey, I can do this, and I liked it. I remember laughing at the Potter's House for the first time in forever. Like, it had been years since I had laughed. And things were good. I knew my parents were never going to get back together, but my whole family was coming to the Potter's House every weekend to see me. My mom, my dad, my brother. We'd all go to church together, and things were good. He did a lot of healing in our lives at that time. And I was sober with my family for the first time in over 15 years. Like, I was 35 years old when I went to the Potter's House. And it was really, the first Christmas we spent together, I'll never forget, like, they allowed me to be in their house. Like, my parents let me come home, and they wanted me there. And that was just, for so long I had embarrassed them. For so long it hurt to talk about me. It hurt to be around me. So I guess I had been at the Potter's House for about 3 months, and one day there was another girl there, and I had, gotten it was my time to shower. We have allotted shower times, and so I just got in the shower, and she was like, Jenna, your mama and daddy are here. And I was like, are you sure it's my mama and daddy? Because it was on a Thursday, and my family came to see me on Sundays. And she was like, yeah, a white truck. I was like, well, my daddy does have it. He did have a white truck. So I quickly got out of the shower, threw my clothes on, and walked past a bedroom that some other girls were in. And I was like, what's going on? And they were like, your parents are in the living room. And I knew when they came to see me on a Thursday together that something was wrong. My mama, she was just like a zombie. She couldn't even speak. And my daddy, he just cried, and he just said, he's gone, Jenna. Matthew's gone. And that was the worst day of our lives. I always thought that we would grow up together. I thought that we would raise families together. I thought that we would care for our parents together as they were aging. And before I met Levi, Matthew was my favorite person in the world. And this is the first time that I've ever said this out loud, but he died of a drug overdose. And we were so consumed in my addiction and everything, I didn't even notice it. I didn't even know that he had a problem. He had 3 back surgeries, and he became addicted to prescription pain pills. And he was battling his own demons. And it was just something he couldn't kick. He couldn't beat it on this side of heaven, on this side of earth. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to be strong. I'm going to be the best daughter ever. And, I just went into action mode. And I'm like, and I was. And I did good. And I felt like I took great care of my parents. Well, then, at this time, I went back to the Potter's house and left there. And after I finished at the Potter's house, they sent me to Florida to a summer camp, Anderson, to work at for the summer. And then from there, I moved into a transitional home in Jonesboro that Cindy and Bubba Cathy owned. And so I was able to work there, save up money, get my license back. Caitlin's promise, I was like, I can never save enough money to get a car. I can never get, all these things. But God worked it out for me to go there. And I didn't have any bills. All I could do was save money, get my license back. And then, Then I was blessed with a car through Caitlin's Promise. That's a ministry that helps women that have been through a discipleship program and helps them get back on their feet after they've turned their lives around. So they gave me this car, and it was a beater. It was a beater. But I was able to drive it for 6 months, and then I went to work for a car dealership, and then I was able to get another car. I bought my first car. That's me driving my first car that I bought on my own. But God just opened up so many doors, and when you're obedient and when you surrender to His will, then things are, when you're out there in the streets and you're strung out and you're living in the world and everything happens. The worst things, you have the worst luck in the world, and you have all these problems and problem after problem after problem, and everything is just like, gosh, poor pitiful me, and it just piles up. And there's no way that I could have ever done this without God. Because I was a big screw up. But now I'm royal priesthood. Yeah. And I don't have to walk in shame anymore. My parents were proud of me. My family was proud of me. They enjoyed being around me again. All that was restored. Just real quick, my favorite Bible verse is John 16:33, and that's, I've told you these things so that in me you'll have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart because I've overcome the world. And He's overcome the world. He's overcome all my problems and your problems. All of it. He's already taken care of it. And it makes me, I just love that verse. It makes me want to shout take heart, I've overcome the world. That's just don't worry about it. You're going to have problems. It's going to be hard. Life is going to be hard. But He's got you. Sometimes we don't understand the things that happen to us or the things that don't work out the way that we want them to, but God works it all out for our good, and it's part of a bigger plan that we cannot see. If we could see His plan, then we would for sure put our hands in it, and we would try to manipulate and control things to be the way that we think they ought to be. But he's got bigger plans for us. So my mom was diagnosed with cancer, and I was able to move back home and take care of her and spend some time with her. And we had a lot of talks. A lot of things that needed to be said, and that was such a blessing to have that time with her. And I know I took good care of her. So then I've just got this grief that I'm carrying, and it's heavy, right? So she passes away, and I mean, grief, y'all, is just, it ain't no joke. But it's just crazy, you know. I isolated after that. I was at home. I was working from home, and I'm like, I'm going to go crazy doing this. Like, I can't keep working at home. So I was back in the office, and then I'm like, God just revealed, I'm like, okay, you know, God, there's got to be more. There's more to this life than this. Like, you didn't bring me through all X, Y, Z, all these different things I can look back on that he brought me through just for me to be mad and sad all the time. So I quit listening to secular music, started listening to nothing but preachers, and really got involved in different things, started CR. I got a church family that I love more than anything. And there's times when I felt so alone in my life, but I'm not alone anymore. There's just so much good. So much good. He's turned my life around. He's given me a hope for the future, just like he said he would. And thank y'all for letting me share.